the G-Men, the New York fucking football
Yeah.
giants. I'm just like, this team is it. Brian Daboll's got to be the favorite for the coach of the year, I would say.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say probably him or Nick Sirianni with the Eagles, just because they're still undefeated. But
Yeah,
Sirianni's been there already.
Sirianni.
Sirianni, he's already been a coach. So
Yeah,
as in like he's already been the Eagles coach, whereas Dable is a freshman head coach with a team that was definitely not projected to do as well as the Eagles were. So I feel like Dable might have it because I feel like they like to reward I feel like the people who vote on Coach of the Year and awards like that like to reward
yes.
freshman coaches who kind of turn around a program that was not looking as did not have as high expectations going into the season, as opposed to a team kind of making
Like
the leap.
Stefanski in
Exactly
2020.
right.
And so I could see that happening, even though look, it's been a bit of a kiss of death.
It's true.
Like
I know.
Matt Nagy got it in 2018,
Right.
which is
Right.
hilarious.
Shocking.
That team was just talented. That was the thing. But the Giants are just incredibly well coached, and they look. The Ravens miss Wink Martindale. Turns out he has changed the way that this defense looks. They have these just incredible looks. I saw there was this alignment where the Giants, like three defensive like linemen, or it wasn't linemen, but they were pass rushers, were lined up almost just behind each other as if they were in a conga line to make some sort to have this the smoke and mirrors about who was going to be rushing the passer, excuse me. um
And
and
that's huge. The misdirection and the lack of predictability in who's rushing and who's dropping into coverage is like literally the pure name of the game in football now.
Yeah, and that's what Wink Martindale is so good at. And he's gotten the most out of guys like Dexter Lawrence, who's on his fifth year option, right?
Right.
ESPN had some statistic about pass rush win rate with defensive
Mhm.
tackles. Dexter Lawrence is in the top 10 of that right
And he's
now.
only been getting better. He was kind of, obviously first round
Sexy
pick.
Dexy.
Yeah, he was wait, first round pick, right?
Yes, he
Second
was
second
the
first
first round freaking pick that Gettleman got
Yes,
from the
right,
Odell
right.
Beckham Jr. trade. So that shout
My
out to Odell forever, my favorite Giant. But like that's part of why I think he was kind of not that well liked by the fan base.
Yeah, right.
Also because it's a first round pick on a position that is like
I was gonna say
considered
like
to be
not
one of the least valuable in terms
totally.
of draft capital. You can get big guys, defensive tackles later in the round, but he's playing more as a true nose, and it's working
And he's
out.
been playing really well, and I think honestly just improving every year. And so it's really nice to see him continue to get better and to continue to grow on this team
Yeah.
and
And
not get kind of lost in the shuffle with like Leonard Williams and other guys on the line.
And with Wink's emphasis on man, Adoree Jackson is shining as a
Oh
true
yeah, and
corner
he's
one.
playing so well. And he's leaps and bounds the best corner on the team.
And it looks like
Like
it was a good decision to move on from James Bradbury, not just for financial reasons, but he's more of a zone corner and he's more of a complementary too. And you see this in Philly, right? He's playing really well on the other side of Darius Slay.
right, because he has someone who does not have to be the number one option.
Lockdown. So I'm just so impressed with this coaching staff. Brian Daboll isn't calling plays. He has Kafka up in the Eagles nest or whatever, calling these plays, seeing the field, and Daboll is able to manage the bigger picture of the team, which is rare in a first-time head coach. And you see someone like Nathaniel Hackett, who's trying to call plays, and he looks like he's completely lost, not being able to actually manage the game. But the thing is Daboll, despite being kind of a little new age in the way that he relates to players, comes from Alabama, comes from the Bill Belichick coaching tree. He has old school roots, and it's showing in the way that they never give up. They're fundamentally sound. They're coached out of their mind, and he just understands how to manage both sides of the game. They play complementary football. What the offense does informs what the defense does. What the defense does informs what the offense does. And it's so refreshing to see that happen as opposed to like the past few years, specifically with Joe Judge. Let's play scared. And I know that they work together, but the defense and the offense worked to be scared shitless constantly.
Yeah,
And
but also
always playing from a position of fear.
of scale, and also that's what happens. That culture or that mindset that seeps into play.
Yeah.
If your play callers are having you do a quarterback sneak straight into six linemen who can't block you from the 1 yard line,
Yeah.
you're not going to have any confidence in the players around you or the people who are ostensibly supposed to be putting you in positions to succeed. And that was what happened with Joe Judge. That's what happened with Ben McAdoo. This team has not felt this vital in a long time.
Right.
It has not felt like they could hang in close games, and even they're eschewing the moral victories that would usually be characterized by an overperforming team because they're actually winning the games.
Yeah,
they're
and
actually winning the
yes,
close games.
and that
They're not just getting
matters.
close and skating by or losing by 1 point. They're not
Yes.
having Dan Campbell games, no shots at the Lions. I'm just saying like they're hanging in games and then also winning them.
And the thing is, it's like, look, we're out on, we can't take a quarterback coming up in the draft at this point. Like we are done thinking about that. We're thinking about Daniel Jones franchise tag next year and then see where we are. I don't still think that he's going to take the Giants to a Super Bowl. I think he's a lot better than the national media actually thinks that he is. This wasn't even his best game, but he has this incredible running ability that just looks weird because he's this dorky looking white guy that looks like he should be working at Goldman. But he can run. He does have a decent arm, and he has like an average NFL starting caliber quarterback arm where he can put zip on throws. And what's different from other quarterbacks who have arm talent and might have stronger arms, like someone like PJ Walker, who didn't complete a pass despite throwing it really hard for the Carolina Panthers in this last game, or he didn't complete a pass past 1 yard down the field, is what I meant to say, which is unbelievable when you see his chart. But DJ has great catchable balls. It's a damn spiral every time it comes out of his arm, and you can't say that for other players. And I'm like burying the lead here. Saquon Barkley, comeback player of the year. Give it to him now. I understand that Geno Smith is having a very good year, but you can't really come back from being a backup and like not being
He
playing,
came
right?
back from like a real potentially career altering injury and is still looking like really strong and really effective.
And so I just, like, I can't even tell you how refreshing it is for this team, which changed my life and made me a sports fan, the New York Giants, to see them be fun. Because even in those two Super Bowl runs, one of which I witnessed in person when they won the Super Bowl the second time against the Patriots in Indianapolis, I was there. They were never fun, right? The defense was smothering, and Eli Manning and the offensive line was good, and Eli was opportunistic in the playoffs and hung in there and got hit a lot, and then he'd make these big throws downfield. But it wasn't like these explosive offenses where and I'm not saying they're explosive now, but they have the capacity to be once they get more talent, where they're doing such creative things on the offensive side of the ball. That's what's so exciting about this team. And they beat the Packers, they beat the Ravens. This is not them beating up on cupcake teams anymore, the Titans or the Bears, the Titans are probably going to win that division. So they're not even cupcakes. They're actually gutting out wins. And do you have those charts that I sent you from coming down from down in the fourth quarter a bunch of different times? There was a statistic that CBS tweeted out saying the Giants are the first team this century to overcome double-digit second half deficits in 3 of their first 6 games. I mean, they are coming back. They are the comeback kids. And this chart here, right? I took this from Big Blue View. This is against the Titans. You see right at the end was they only were able to their win probability increase like that. Same here with the Packers, right? It was only much later into the game where the win probability flipped to their side, and that the Lamar Jackson interception at the end of the game was where you see it flipping over there. So they are defying statistics in these wins. And look, last thing I'll say, because I want to get to more games before we get to Waz, is that we should probably cool a little bit on Lamar Jackson MVP. He's my favorite player outside of any player playing right now on the New York Giants. I love him to death, but the fact that the Ravens are 3-3 with 3 losses, being double-digit leads being blown in the fourth quarter, that's on Harbaugh too. And I love John Harbaugh, and it's mostly on the defense. But Lamar did not make good decisions at the end of the game.
And I will say with those probability measures too that, well, first of all, to your point about the Ravens and the Packers, I understand, and someone, Andrew K here in the YouTube chat, said, I don't know, Packers are looking like cupcakes to me, and I say that as a Packers fan. I understand because, one, the receiving core clearly is not what it used to be. Rodgers is struggling more than we initially thought he would. But going into these games, you are never going to NFL pundits or even just our instinct, we're not going to pick or just assume the Giants or the Jets are going to beat a team led by Aaron Rodgers, let alone a team led by Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau Field. And the same goes for the same goes for the Ravens. We're not going to assume usually that Lamar Jackson's going to lose this game.
Right.
So I think it's still a testament to them that despite these teams not looking like their apex, both of the Packers and the Ravens at this point in the season, these are still teams that, in terms of a talent deficit, the talent deficit is much more on the side of the Giants and the Jets than it is on the Packers and the Ravens, at least in my opinion, and especially on the defensive side for the Packers.
Yeah.
Because the Packers spent a lot of money in free agency on their defense, and we're really looking to not only retool it, but have it be one of the better units in the league. And they were really looking like it in the first 2 or 3 weeks, but it just kind of now seems more like they are good players, but the unit itself is not playing that well. And it's kind of the same thing with the Ravens. They have a lot of injuries, I would say, on defense, but they are just not. When they need to get pressure or when they need to get stops, they're not getting them. And so I think for the Giants especially to hang in these games and ultimately win them is amazing for not only the team from a team perspective, but from a culture perspective.
Yeah. Well, winning is what makes a good culture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to that point, there aren't that many test cases because a lot of them, actually, I would say there's maybe 2, but 2 things that I think set Daboll apart from the Belichick coaching tree is that it seems like the people who don't have success are the guys who try to emulate Bill Belichick, both in style and in play.
Yeah.
Aesthetically, they try to be like, Matt Patricia or Joe Judge. They try to be these like tough red-ass guys with no feelings and no emotions, and it's all about like quote unquote doing your job. And like and guess what? They suck as NFL head coaches.
Yeah.
And the 2 people who haven't, and I mean, with McDaniels, it remains to be seen. It's not going great so far, but he's only been a head coach for like 5 games.
Yeah.
But Mike Vrabel and Brian Daboll, didn't mean for them to rhyme, but these are 2 guys from the Belichick tree that created their own cultures, created their own ethos and their own schemes and their own mindset for as head coaches, and they're successful.
And less directly on the Belichick tree, not like coordinators.
Right,
just like they
right.
went through, they
went through the
understood.
Patriots.
Right,
at some
right.
point.
Like, I mean, Vrabel was a player, and then Daboll was under Saban and Belichick, that
Right.
kind of thing. But then he really carved out his own niche with the Bills, and I think that's where, and he was on other teams as well.
And to that, and to the point with the Bills as well. The guys I mentioned a lot from The Athletic, they're on their show, Robert Mays and Nate Tice, they had this point as well, which I totally see, is that Daboll did not come from the Bills and just be like, okay, I'm running the Josh Allen offense with Daniel Jones. That the offense that they're currently running doesn't look like the Bills offense. He's not coming there and just saying, I'm going to implant my scheme onto a new roster. It's, well, who do I have? What do they do best? And how can I mold my scheme onto the players I have?
They couldn't run the ball in Buffalo. And now
Gary Brightwell is running the ball.
Right.
And he's running successfully.
The ball. Right. So, I mean, anyway.
It's the same thing with the Andy Reid tree. It's guys saying, oh, I can run the Andy Reid offense. I'm Matt Nagy. I can run the Andy Reid offense. You can't run the Andy Reid offense when you're not Andy Reid.
Right.
You have to run your own offense.